702.
Weird and wonderful.
It is 25 minutes to 10 o'clock, and indeed, the weird and wonderful starts now. Erica Williamson is my guest. She's a quantum healing technical practitioner or technique practitioner. And she joins me now on the line. Erica, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you agreeing to speak to us only for half an hour. We usually do this for an hour, but indeed we had to give the politicians out in the city of Tshwane right of reply. What is quantum healing?
Yes, hi Aubrey. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Sure.
Yes, so I'm a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner from Cape Town, South Africa. Quantum healing, QHHT basically, is a hypnosis technique which was developed by Dolores Cannon about 60 years ago, which involves past life regression, regressing a person into basically past, present, future, or parallel lives, but also current life. But also, when one does this hypnosis technique, one has access to the higher self or the oversoul or the subconscious, in which one has access to basically any information within the universe. So you can basically have any questions answered in this hypnosis state. So that's a basic explanation of the technique itself, Aubrey.
So you have to be in a hypnotic state in order for you to access the ability to be healed in this way?
Yes, so what we've actually realized is that we all have access to our intuition, so we can call the higher self also the intuition, which is the first thought. If I ask you a question, before 3 seconds, the first answer is always the right answer. But we've been programmed by our left brains or our egos, to kind of doubt that first answer and to listen to the voices of everyone around us instead of our own inner guidance system or our own intuition. So what this hypnosis technique does is it basically just, allows you to relax the conscious or the left brain, the ego, basically.
Yeah.
And it allows you to access the theta brainwave, which is that very relaxed sinus curve, which, just before you fall asleep and just before you wake up, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That brainwave where you're very, very relaxed and you actually have access to infinite intelligence or infinite information. And just before you fall asleep, a lot of amazing, great ideas would come to you immediately.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had that experience. So, we do it in hypnosis in order to get to that trance state, in order to get to the information.
What do you heal?
Sorry?
What do you heal? What ailment? Is it physical? Is it spiritual? Is it emotional? What do you heal?
Yes. So we understand that, we are all mind, body, and soul. Me, myself, and I, higher self, ego, and inner child. There are 3 aspects of the self. So we can heal anything within the state, emotional issues, physical issues, spiritual issues. I've seen everything being healed, with this technique.
Give us a call if you are aware of this technique. Would love to hear your experiences with it. I'm fascinated by the idea that we have access to infinite wisdom and infinite knowledge, right? Fascinated by the idea. I like the idea. I'm attracted to the idea. I just want to go into it a little bit more. What is infinite wisdom? Is it anything like the World Wide Web? What are we talking about when we say
exactly
the infinite wisdom? And did it exist prior to the World Wide Web?
Yes, exactly. So you've actually summarized very, very well. So that's basically what you're describing is the quantum field, which is the totality of the all. I don't know if you've ever heard of the phrase, the Akashic records. That's basically the Google of the universe. Every thought that has ever been thought, will ever be thought, or is being thought is stored in basically like a giant cloud, within our universe.
Yes.
And within this kind of hypnosis technique, we can make access or have access to and pluck information from this, quantum cloud or this Google of the universe. So it's not something that's, for instance, Google is not something that's new. It is in existence within our universe as we know it.
I've heard of that concept. I'm just wanting you to repeat that word. The what repository? What did you call it?
The Akashic records.
The Akashic records. I've heard something of that nature. And the person that was explaining it to me was saying that, you read in the Bible about the books being open,
yes.
the book of life and the Lamb's book of life.
Yes.
That is that universal infinite knowledge that is being referred to in books like the Bible, for example. Would that be correct in your assessment?
Yes. So when people go in hypnosis, they either see it as basically a massive library. So they see themselves walking in this massive library of information in which they can basically access their own lives. So they can kind of draw out wisdom books of their own existence. But when one has access, we can also have, make contact with other existences, past, present, future existences within this library of time. But also some people see it as walking through the Great Hall and seeing it as, kind of like paintings, or sculptures. And they go into this painting and they go into this physical scene. So we understand that everything is just an image. So these are just images given to our human brains to understand this like concept, which is ununderstandable. It's ineffable, to the human brain.
Yeah. Look, my mind embraces what you've just said now, because I do sense that there is wisdom out there that goes beyond us, that as you say is ineffable, that goes beyond time and that is there, right? I get that. I'm interested in the process of the technicalities of the accessing of that knowledge for me and mine. How do you do that? Do I need to be hypnotized?
Yes. Okay. So you actually do have access to it within your everyday life. But like I was explaining, you're not trusting of the first answer or the first image or the first visual that you get. So which is why techniques like hypnosis can get you there. What we basically do is we guide an individual into like I told you, the theta brainwave. So we have the beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma brainwave. Beta is when you're completely awake, like you are right now. Alpha is when you're in the lightest form of trance, which is like when you're driving somewhere and you just kind of just got there and you don't even know how you got there. It's like kind of download concentration state. Theta is right before you fall asleep, right before you wake up. We call it the creative center. It's that very, very visual part of the brain, which is actually where the magic happens. That is the God spark within you. That is basically your access. It's like a telephone line to your higher self when you are in the theta brainwave, and which is where all that information can be accessed. And then delta is when you're completely asleep. And then gamma is the God spark. So this technique takes place in theta, which is the creative visual center, the first hour, but the second hour takes part in that gamma, basically God spark, which is basically that feeling of overflowing love within the heart, when you're hugging a baby or playing with a kitten. So how you can in your everyday life, by not being hypnotized, access the state is basically by connecting with your heart or your native frequencies. Because the heart is basically the amalgamation or the integration of the higher self and the ego. And the inner child resides within the heart. So how do we connect with the heart is, there's many techniques and many spiritual teachers talk about this, but they always tell us, connect with the heart by connecting with the inner child, unlearning everything you've learned in the past, but also being more like the child, playing with the sandcastles on the beach and being in neutrality in the present moment, not worrying about the past, the future, being in the present moment. So that's how you and your going to nature, listening to music, doing the things that you enjoy every single day that, that brings back that joy back into your life. That's how you as an everyday person can access, that kind of infinite intelligence or wisdom. Yes. Or you could do hypnosis, a technique like QHHT.
Tell me who comes to you to get assistance with what?
Yes. Okay. So I've seen hundreds of people from literally all over the world. From all walks of life. Literally, there is no, defined person who comes to see me. I have found that the majority of people are more the spiritual people, the people who have been, who are quite familiar with hypnosis. More meditation work, the more spiritual kind. But also the people with, intense ailments, physical ailments, who are, they've kind of gotten to their wits' end with Western medicine and it just hasn't worked for them, so that they would come and see me. People who are very curious, people just, also want confirmation of the information that they already know. I found those to be the most, the most common people that come and see me. Deep down, we have all the answers, but, they come and see me just to get confirmation of what they already know. So those are the majority of the people.
And is there a certain set of questions that you ask in order to get a sense of what people are really looking for?
Okay, so this is part of the technique. So there's a 2-hour pre-talk that I'll have with the client, talking about their, childhood, growing up, traumas, important events like that. But before they come, they have to prepare a list of 15 questions. So before they come, they literally make a list. And, just by virtue of writing down the question, a lot of the answers just appear magically for them, while just making the questions, but also just by doing the pre-talk or the actual hypnosis. So they'll make their own questions based on health, family, jobs, practical stuff, spiritual stuff, maybe galactic origins, guides, whatever. They will come with a set of questions of their own in which they ask their own higher self. So they're basically giving themselves, advice from a higher perspective.
So Erica Williamson is my guest. She's a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner. And some of my listeners saying, slow down, Erica. We need to understand.
Sorry, I like to wrap down information. I'm a bit of a rapper.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I want to try and paraphrase what I think you're saying. And of course, you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong. You are suggesting or saying that there is infinite wisdom, knowledge, and understanding out there, in the great out there. Yeah? Right? And we have access to it if we understand certain techniques like the quantum healing techniques. This understanding, knowledge, information that is out there is akin to what we know now as the World Wide Web in all of its manifestation, both the known and the dark web, as it were. It's all there. It's just that in our technological version of this, we use certain instruments, we use computers, we use bandwidth, we use all sorts of different things. But the same kind of technology is available to us naturally. We can access infinite wisdom that is in fact beyond what is available in the World Wide Web, that goes beyond, before and above and below time. It is there and it is available to us. But in order for us to access it, we've got to be in a particular state of mind. And that is the state of mind that you refer to as the what? Beta, what? Theta, what?
Theta, yeah. It's called the somnambulistic state, or when one has contact with the higher self, the oversoul, or the superconscious, which is the theta brainwave, yeah.
Right. So that brainwave is the state where we are best suited to access this great book of life, this great book of life and anything beyond and above life. And in order for us to be able to access that, we've got to be in that theta state, which can be induced through hypnosis and other means, but it is essentially the suppression of the ego so that innocence is able to access this great knowledge. I loved that. What did you call it again?
Oh, are you talking about the inner child?
No, the book of the
Akashic records.
The Akashic
records.
Where does that name come from?
I'm not 100% sure where the name comes from, but it's just basically the library, like the library of the universe.
Yeah, it's that infinite, ineffable repository of all knowledge, that which we know, that we will get to know at some point, but it is this great, huge, it's literally the mind of God, if I were to be able to say it.
Exactly.
And what you're saying to me is that we are able to plug into the mind of God, download whatever information we need, including healing, to be able to heal our bodies, our minds, and our souls.
Yes. But basically, it's not something that's out there. It's something that's within us. We are the house of God. We have to understand that. So what I'm saying is, as above, so below, as within, so without. Not as without, so within. So we're living in a universe governed by the law of mirroring or the law of attraction, which means, I'm emitting an electromagnetic wave, which means for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? That's basic physics within this universe. So if I'm emitting a certain wave, I go out in the mornings, I'm in a bad mood, bad things happen to me. If I go out, I'm in a good mood, good things happen to me. If I'm attacking myself, I go out, I'm a match to attack. So what I'm basically saying also is that, it is not necessarily out there. It is within us. We have access to this infinite intelligence within us already.
Why is that?
And it's just about connecting to that.
Why is that Why is that important to understand? Why is it important for us to understand that it is within and not without?
Well, I think if we have that understanding, then we can actually change the universe or change the world in which we live. If we believe that we're living in a deterministic, kind of environment, we can never change it. Things are just happening to us, and we don't have control of our environment. So if we believe that, take responsibility for everything in our environment, everything in our intimacy, which means into me, I see. Everything in my intimate relationship or environment is a reflection of my internal state. If we can see the universe of the world like that, that means we can change it because we can change us. We can't change anything around us, but we can change us. And by virtue of changing us, we can change our environment. So that's why it's important to see as within, so without.
Zonia is in Pretoria North. Zonia, good evening to you. Your thoughts?
Good evening. This lady has got a lot of answers for me. I wish I could have more time with her. Now, Akashic records. How do you get to the Akashic records? And how can one get oneself to beta wave status? Because all these have been declared like esoterically through meditation, transcendental meditation and stuff like that, records which are not clearly defined and available to us.
Erica?
Okay, so like I explained, the hypnosis is important, but also you can just go to YouTube and you can Google theta binaural beats. Binaural is spelled B-I-N-U-A-R-A-L, binaural beats. Okay, so that's kind of like a sound, a tone, a musical kind of piece that will be played. And that will take your brain into the theta brainwave. So you'll go into kind of a meditative state. And the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more you will get visuals of this library or this expanse of consciousness or this information, basically. So then you'll be connecting to aspects of yourself within this library, basically in a visual center or sense. So you can YouTube theta binaural beats, but you can also YouTube guided visual meditations. Because remember I was explaining theta is the visual or creative center, which is linked to our right brain. So we want to get into that, which the mind of God is basically a visual, a visual thing. So we have to understand that everything around us once existed in the mind of someone, and they created it by just visualizing it first. So you can YouTube those two techniques and then practice that over and over, and eventually you will start seeing results.
Sonia, thanks very much for your call. It's interesting that you are referring to the visual. Is it possible to plug into the mind of God and experience it in other ways other than visually?
I think definitely emotionally, because, a lot of the channels or the people that I work with who are very, very much connected are not necessarily very, very much visual, but they're very, very much emotional. So the emotion would come first and then the visual would come second. Because remember, the emotion comes from the heart. That is our guidance system or our North Star that basically shows to us what is wanted or unwanted within our lives. So, yes, definitely emotional. Yes.
And I suppose you're right. Emotions don't necessarily come to us in visual sort of format. It comes to us by way of feelings. And I remember somebody explaining to me that emotions are nothing more than our body's experience of our minds. In other words, whatever is going through your mind, the experience of that physically is an emotion. Would you agree?
No, we would say it's the other way around. So energy, we understand emotion to be energy in motion, right? Which basically, as we understand it, starts within the heart, and then thus the thought will come from that. So, we've always been taught to suppress, deny, disown, reject our emotions because since childhood, our parents don't know what to do with it. We don't know what to do with it, but actually our greatest strength lies within our emotions. Because like I was explaining to you earlier, you go out, you feel good things happen to you. You feel bad things happen to you. So it's within our, within our evolution to be able to integrate, the positive, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, integration point, 0 point, within the heart.
So if something emanates from the heart and then becomes a thought,
yes,
and then becomes a feeling in the body, what is that? Well, what is that thing? What is that emanation?
Well, it's just like I said, it's energy in motion. It's just kind of that spark, that it's almost like, because we are all aspects of God. Basically, like fragmentation of God, a thought, who am I? And basically, or source, whatever you want to call it, had this fragmented thought of who am I, and fragmented into a million, billion, infinite amount of pieces. And we are one of these fragments. So emotion, we can just see as energy in motion, basically taking us towards a desired or an undesired state. And we're basically just on this planet to learn the lessons that we came here to do by polarity, the good things and the bad things, the wanted and the unwanted. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah. In a way, it does. I'm just looking at some of the calls coming through on 011-883-0702. So typically, what do you heal? I've asked this question before, but I mean, can I come to you with the flu, for example, the coronavirus, and say, Erica, help me with some healing here, some quantum healing? Would you be able to help me with that?
Yeah, so I've literally seen people with different ailments, all kinds of different ailments. I've seen people with fibromyalgia, very intense cancers. I've seen people with intense phobias or allergy states who have actually been able to heal themselves. But like I explained to you earlier, we believe that disease is not an external cause. We believe everything is an emotional root or an emotional density within the body.
Yeah.
So that means it's an emotion that you thought that you didn't want to think, and now it has kind of it's kind of stagnated within the body. That energy in motion was not allowed to move through the body. Because remember, energy wants to move, it doesn't want to be blocked. So for instance, if you have a problem with your throat, we believe that is linked to your throat chakra, which means you're not expressing your truth, you're not speaking your truth. So if we can change if someone comes to see me, in hypnosis, we change the belief system of the client in which they believe that this is deterministic or external, kind of something has just happened to them, as in it's internal. I am creating it because I'm not speaking my truth. Now I see what the lesson is. I need to stand up for myself. I need to have proper boundaries. I need to not be too codependent. So now this person suddenly has this aha moment, realizing this is my actual lesson. I need to learn it. So now they go back into their everyday lives and they actually do have boundaries. They do speak their truths. Because I always use this analogy, we can cure cancer in a session like this because we have access to infinite intelligence. But if you go back into a cancerous household or keep on thinking cancerous thoughts, then the cancer will return. Cancer, we also understand to be repressed rage within the body as well.
Repressed
so, like I said, everything repressed rage. Yeah. So everything has an emotional root within the body, which we shine the light of consciousness on that repressed, denied, disowned aspect, and we release it within hypnosis. But also the person has to go back home and do the work. They have to, life doesn't get better by chance. It gets better by change. So go home and make the change.
Tanya is in Pretoria. Hi, Tanya.
Yes, Aubrey, good evening.
Yeah.
Yes, let me quickly ask my question. There's no time. I just wanted to find out from the lady, instinct and deja vu. A feeling that you have been at a certain place, but you have never been. It's just a feeling that you have done something before, but you have never done it. and then instinct or sixth sense. Is there any correlation with what she's talking about?
Great question.
Am I going off?
Beautiful question, Tanya. Erica, as we close?
Yes, that's a very good question. So, there's a lot of theories as to what deja vu is. The information we've gotten is, before we come into this life, so we believe in reincarnation, obviously, in the work that I do. So before you come into this life, you go into a life review, or they call it a kind of you choosing your life before you come into this life. So you have an infinite amount of possibilities in front of you, and you have your soul team with you who helps you choose a life in which you can learn the lessons that you need to learn. So basically, so when you get into this life, you will have kind of points of time that branch out, split into different timelines. So what they say deja vu is you remembering being on the other side of the veil, choosing which life or which point of attraction or point of interest or timeline you would choose in any given time. So that's one of the theories when it comes to deja vu. But also, people say that deja vu, or information that I've been getting, is that you're actually tapping into a parallel lifetime. So we believe that time is not linear. We believe it's simultaneous, which means it's happening at the same time. It's all existing at the same time, which is why we can access or extract information from it. So what you might be accessing in deja vu state is you're actually seeing a parallel life, number one, or number two, you could be seeing the fork in the road. So every single time you make a decision, your consciousness breaks into an infinite amount of aspects to have different experiences to take home to source, to explain to source what it's like being here, or just explain to source what it is. So there's many theories when it comes to deja vu. Those are just two that I've found in my research. I hope that makes sense.
How do we get in touch with you, Erica, if indeed we want to continue this conversation privately with you? How do we get in touch with you?
Okay, I have quite a popular YouTube channel. It's called QHHT Cape Town. You can just YouTube that. I actually post extracts of my sessions or summaries of my sessions, actual hypnosis sessions in which we make contact, with extraterrestrials or with kind of elemental aspects, or we, access information about South Africa, about lockdown, about CERN, about basically any information that can help humanity. So maybe check out my YouTube channel, QHHT Cape Town, if you're interested, in finding out more about the actual sessions. Or you can go to my my website. It's called qhht.co.za, and you can make an appointment maybe to see me in Cape Town, or make an appointment to do an online session with
Erica Williamson. Thank you so much for joining us. Quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner.